You've been busy, but you haven't changed. You wake up earlier, you push harder, you fill your days with effort. And still, somehow, you feel like the same person wearing a different schedule. You've been told that motion means progress, that work means growth, that fatigue means proof. But none of that guarantees evolution. You can dig faster, but you'll only end up deeper in the same hole. Everywhere you look, someone is chasing more. More hours, more hacks, more proof that they're improving. But more is the easiest trap to fall into, because it feels like transformation while keeping you exactly where you are. There's a quiet lie behind all this noise, one that no one questions anymore. The belief that effort alone can outgrow limitation, that if you just keep working, you'll eventually break free. But what if the bars aren't outside you? What if they're built into the way you think? You've already seen what leverage looks like. You've already seen the strength in simplicity. Now it's time for the next question. If freedom isn't found in effort, where does it begin? Socrates didn't have productivity systems or time management tools. He didn't build a brand. He didn't chase more. And yet, 2,400 years later, his mind still moves through ours. He discovered something we've forgotten, that true growth isn't about what you do, but how deeply you question why you do it. Because hard work can multiply what you have, but only questions can change what you are. You can't climb out of a pit by digging faster. You can only evolve when you stop digging and start thinking. You've been told all your life that hard work is the answer, that persistence is power, that the ones who grind the longest win. But what if the system never rewards effort, only awareness? What if you're not lazy, just misdirected? We live inside a story built on 3 illusions. They look like progress. They feel like discipline, but they quietly keep you from ever evolving. The first illusion is that activity equals progress. We worship busyness because stillness feels like failure. We fill every minute so we don't have to face the silence between them. You move faster, chase harder, and call it growth. But motion isn't growth, it's repetition at high speed. A wheel doesn't evolve by spinning faster. It evolves by realizing it's a wheel. If your work has no reflection behind it, you're just decorating your own cage. Activity makes you look alive, but it quietly drains your awareness. When your hands never stop moving, your mind never has to ask why. The second illusion is that accumulation equals mastery. You collect skills, certificates, experiences, and call it evolution. You build a library inside your head, but never change the librarian. Knowledge piles up like furniture in a room you never leave. It feels safe, it feels like preparation, but it's still confinement. Because what you accumulate defines what you protect. And what you protect defines what you fear losing. Real mastery isn't in what you've gathered. It's in what you can release without losing yourself. You can have more facts without having more sense. Information feeds the mind, but reflection rewires it. The third illusion is that simplicity equals stagnation. We've been conditioned to fear the slow and the quiet. We treat calm as weakness and silence as emptiness. But simplicity isn't surrender, it's the discipline of focus. It's removing the noise that keeps you from hearing your own thoughts. Less can be powerful, but only when the space is used to think, not to hide. A simple life isn't about owning less. It's about needing less to stay clear. The calmest mind isn't passive. It's surgical. It moves once, but in the right direction. These illusions feed each other. Activity distracts you from emptiness. Accumulation hides your insecurity, and the fear of simplicity keeps you from seeing both. Together they build the perfect loop. Effort without evolution. That's why you can work 10 hours a day, fill notebooks with goals, and still feel unchanged. Because you're playing the same mental game with different tools. You've been taught to fix the symptoms of effort, not the structure of thought that creates them. And when thought itself goes unquestioned, even progress becomes a prison. So if effort doesn't guarantee evolution, what does? If working harder only polishes the same walls of the same room, how do you break through? The answer isn't hidden in any book or system or routine. It's hidden in the act of questioning itself. Long before self-help, before optimization, before hustle culture, there was a man who stopped chasing. He didn't build faster wheels, he asked why we were spinning. He didn't collect answers, he stripped them away. And through that stripping, he changed what it means to think. His name was Socrates, and he discovered what no system ever taught, that the real work of evolution begins not with effort, but with inquiry. Long before the word philosophy meant anything academic, there was a man who walked through the streets of Athens barefoot. He stopped people mid-sentence. He asked questions that disarmed certainty and exposed what they never dared to confront. He owned nothing. He claimed to know nothing. Yet he dismantled empires of thought with one question: why do you believe that? Socrates never called himself a teacher. He didn't deliver knowledge. He provoked awareness. He didn't build a system of facts. He built a process for thinking. That is why his ideas outlived him, because they were never about him. They were about the architecture of truth. His way of evolving people didn't rely on effort or accumulation. It relied on dismantling the mental structures that kept them blind. He used method as leverage. He didn't scale through fame or books, but through the transformation of minds that carried his questions forward. Module A, Elenchus, questioning to expose structure. The first principle of Socrates was disarming confidence. He would meet people who believed they understood courage, justice, or virtue, and then ask questions that exposed how little they actually knew. Elenchus means cross-examination, but not in the courtroom sense. It is a psychological dissection. You begin with a belief. You follow its consequences. You find the contradiction that hides beneath it. Imagine someone says, hard work earns respect. Socrates might ask, do the hardest workers always earn the most honor? You would hesitate, maybe not. Then he would ask, what is it that we truly respect? The effort or the wisdom behind it. And just like that, a foundation shifts. The structure of your assumption cracks. You begin to see that what you called knowledge was just repetition. The moment a contradiction appears, illusion ends. That is where real growth starts. Socrates didn't fill minds. He emptied them until truth had space to grow. A good question is not an attack. It is a scalpel. It cuts away confusion until the mind stands bare. Module B, Maieutic, helping people give birth to their own thought. The second principle of Socrates was Maieutic, the art of midwifery. He compared himself to his mother, who helped women give birth. He said he did the same, but for the soul. He helped people deliver their own ideas. He never imposed his beliefs. He never gave direct answers. He guided through questions until realization appeared from within the other person. That is why his dialogues were never arguments. They were births. They were labors of understanding. When a truth is discovered by yourself, it becomes part of your nature. No one can take it away. People resist advice because it comes from outside, but they rarely resist realization because it grows inside them. Try this in your own life. When someone asks for advice, resist the urge to fix them. Ask a question that helps them think. What are you afraid will happen if you do nothing? What does success actually mean to you? When you help another person discover their own reasoning, you both evolve. Teaching becomes mutual awakening. Module C, Aporia, embracing confusion as workshop. The third principle of Socrates was aporia, the state of puzzlement. Most people fear confusion. Socrates created it on purpose. He knew that before truth comes, the mind must admit it doesn't know. Aporia is that uneasy silence when everything you thought you knew collapses. It feels like failure, but it's not. It's the sound of growth beginning. When you can stay in that discomfort without rushing to escape, you are evolving. Modern life trains us to avoid uncertainty. We scroll, we work, we distract. Socrates did the opposite. He asked questions that produced stillness. He made people sit inside, not knowing long enough for wisdom to surface. If comfort is a cage, confusion is a key. The mind that can bear doubt without panic is the mind that changes form. Evolution doesn't start with clarity. It starts with the courage to stand inside confusion until it turns into vision. Module D, transmission chain. Mentor, scribe, community. Socrates never wrote his ideas down. His students did. Plato, Xenophon, Aristotle. Each carried his method forward, reshaping it without losing its core. This was the first living chain of thought in Western history. He didn't scale through technology, he scaled through people. Each conversation became a seed. Each student became a new Socrates in another time, another form. His questions traveled further than his voice ever could. That is the essence of scaling without effort. You don't multiply yourself by shouting louder. You multiply yourself by teaching a method that others can reproduce. Your first student is your first leverage. The more people who learn to think, not repeat, the further your mind travels after you are gone. Module E, governance of meaning, rules that protect fidelity, but even replication needs discipline. Without rules, every method becomes distortion. Socrates understood this. That's why he refused to give fixed answers. Answers can be twisted. Methods cannot. He left behind an open system that anyone could use, but one that required responsibility. Test before teaching. Credit the question that changed you. Preserve the method, not the personality. That is how he protected the integrity of his philosophy. It's the same logic behind open source today. Share the code, but keep the testing structure intact. The strength of an idea lies in its ability to stay true as it spreads. A method without structure becomes a slogan, but a method with integrity becomes immortal. Socrates didn't leave a doctrine, he left a process, and that process became the DNA of Western thought. Through these principles, elenchus, maieutic, aporia, transmission, and governance, Socrates built something no empire ever could, a self-replicating system of consciousness. He didn't make people better workers, he made them better observers of themselves. He replaced effort with insight, action with awareness, noise with understanding. He showed that evolution is not about becoming more, it is about becoming real. And now, 2,000 years later, his method still whispers the same challenge. Don't just work harder, examine harder, because the unexamined life doesn't simply lack meaning. It repeats the same mistakes generation after generation, disguised as progress. If Socrates lived today, he wouldn't be on a stage. He wouldn't be selling a course or building a brand. He'd probably be in a dimly lit room, contributing to an open source forum, challenging assumptions line by line. Because what he built 2,000 years ago was the first open system of the mind, a framework that anyone could use, improve, and share without permission. The thinkers of our age are not that different. They build code instead of dialogues, networks instead of schools. But the principle is the same. They evolve not by ownership, but by contribution, not by protecting their ideas, but by opening them up to scrutiny. Analogy A, artifact versus method. In the modern world, we often think progress means building artifacts, products, tools, results. But the deeper evolution happens when you create a method, something others can adopt, test, and expand. Open source coders understand this intuitively. They don't build for personal glory, they build systems that outlive them. A coder writes a piece of code once, and a stranger on the other side of the world adapts it, improves it, and pushes it further. That's how Linux was born. That's how ideas survive without control. Socrates did the same thing with thought. He didn't produce a final product. He wrote no book. He left a method that could be replicated endlessly, a way of thinking that could self-correct through dialogue. The idea that runs without you is an artifact. The method that runs through others is immortality. Analogy B, forks and disciple chains. When a coder forks a project, they copy it, modify it, and create a new version. In philosophy, this happened long before programming existed. Plato was a fork of Socrates, Aristotle was a fork of Plato, and every thinker since has been another branch on that same repository of thought. The key isn't control, it's alignment. A healthy fork respects the original spirit while adapting to its time. That's how systems evolve without collapsing. The moment replication loses fidelity, truth becomes ideology. The same rule applies to every modern project, every community, every movement. Freedom without discipline always turns into noise. Behavioral science, the inner mechanics of open thought. Modern psychology explains why this works. According to self-determination theory by Edward Dacey and Richard Ryan, 3 elements drive genuine motivation: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. People evolve most when they feel ownership over what they're doing, when they see progress, and when it connects to something larger than themselves. That's exactly what open systems and the Socratic method both provide. When you engage voluntarily, you think deeper. When you test an idea yourself, you learn faster. When you contribute to something collective, your growth stops being isolated. That's why the best learning doesn't happen in classrooms or offices. It happens in spaces where people question together. Inquiry isn't rebellion. It's collaboration at its highest form. Socrates created communities of inquiry. Open-source coders create communities of iteration. Both transform curiosity into evolution. Memetics and diffusion. Why ideas spread. In 1976, Richard Dawkins coined the word meme, not the image you scroll past online, but the unit of cultural transmission. He compared ideas to genes. Some survive not because they're true, but because they replicate efficiently. Socrates' ideas survived not because he forced them, but because he made them replicable. It's an algorithm for the evolution of consciousness. Everett Rogers called it diffusion of innovation. It's an algorithm for the evolution of consciousness. Everett Rogers called it diffusion of innovation. An idea spreads when it's emotionally relevant and practically repeatable. Socrates achieved both. He made truth emotionally irresistible and intellectually contagious. People don't follow him because he was right. They follow him because he taught them how to be wrong better. Combining models, a framework for modern evolution. So how does this apply now? You don't need to be a philosopher or a coder to use it. You just need to understand the architecture. Every evolving idea has 3 parts. First, the artifact, the visible form of your insight, something people can use. Second, the mechanism, the way it's shared, tested, and improved. Third, the governance, the simple rules that keep its essence intact while it grows. Socrates mastered the governance of thought. Open source mastered the mechanism of collaboration. Combine them, and you get the blueprint for self-evolution in the modern age. You create a small artifact, a principle, a checklist, a question. You share it freely. You let others test it, question it, even break it. Then you refine it and release it again. Each iteration makes the idea stronger, not weaker. That is how minds evolve. That is how culture progresses without control. The world doesn't change when you work harder. It changes when your questions turn into frameworks that outlive your effort. Every open conversation, every shared question, every honest test, that is philosophy reborn in a technological age. If Socrates were alive today, he wouldn't be a celebrity. He'd be anonymous, working quietly on an idea that belongs to everyone. He'd be building a community that evolves itself. Because real thinkers don't want followers. They want participants. They don't want to be remembered. They want the method to continue after they're gone. The open source coder and the old Athenian philosopher are separated by time, but united by principle. They both believed that truth is not a possession, it is a process, and the moment you protect it, it stops evolving. Philosophy only matters when it changes how you live. Socrates never wanted followers. He wanted practitioners. He wanted people who could take his questions into the marketplace, into their homes, into the moments when they were most tempted to live unconsciously. His method wasn't theory, it was a discipline, and like any discipline, it becomes real only through practice. Here are 5 techniques. Small enough to start today, powerful enough to change the architecture of how you think. Technique 1, the triple why drill. Pick any action or belief you hold and ask yourself why 3 times. Why do I do this? Why does that reason matter? Why do I believe that answer? The first answer is reflex. The second is justification. The third is truth, or the closest you can get to it today. Do this once a day for a week. You'll notice how much of what you call choice is actually habit dressed as logic. Peel the onion until the core stings. Technique 2, the 15-minute Socratic session. Find one person who's willing to think with you, not argue with you. Set a timer for 15 minutes. One asks questions, the other answers. Then switch. The rule is simple. You can't give advice. You can only ask questions that start with what, why, or how. The goal isn't agreement, it's discovery. By the end, notice how your answers shift once they've been spoken out loud. The mind evolves faster in dialogue than in isolation. Technique 3, the aporia log. Confusion is not failure, it's data. Keep a small notebook or open a note on your phone and write down every moment that leaves you uncertain. Write the question that caused it and what you felt when it appeared. Don't rush to solve it. Let it breathe for a day. At the end of the week, review your entries. You'll start seeing patterns, the same assumptions showing up in different clothes. Aporia isn't chaos. It's a compass pointing toward what you've refused to examine. Technique 4, create a one-page artifact. Take one insight that changed you this week and reduce it to a single page. Describe the problem, the question that revealed it, and the principle you learned. Add 3 test cases, ways someone else could apply it. Then give that page to one person. Ask them to try it. Ask them to tell you what broke, what worked, and what confused them. This is how thinkers scale themselves. You turn reflection into structure. You turn wisdom into a framework that others can modify. You stop trying to convince and start letting your ideas be tested by reality. Technique 5, the governance starter pack. Every community, even one built on thought, needs a code. Use 3 rules. First, test before you teach. Never pass on an idea you haven't lived. Second, credit the question that changed you. Trace the lineage of your learning. Third, require verification. For every insight, ask for one real story that proves it works. These rules protect the integrity of your growth. They turn evolution into a living system instead of a collection of slogans. The 7-day Socratic challenge. Day 1, pick one belief and do the triple why drill until you find its core. Day 2, have a 15-minute Socratic session with a partner. Day 3, start your aporia log and record 3 moments of uncertainty. Day 4, turn one of those moments into a one-page artifact. Day 5, share it with someone and collect their feedback. Day 6, revise it based on what you learned. Day 7, reflect. What belief changed shape this week? What question still echoes? Repeat the cycle for another week, then another. By the end of a month, you won't just be working differently, you'll be thinking differently. Socrates proved that the smallest question, if asked honestly, can shift the course of a life. Every time you practice, you upgrade the operating system of your mind. That's how real evolution begins, not through more work, but through more awareness. You've spent your life working harder, chasing results, measuring worth by effort. But effort was never the problem. Awareness was. You've learned how leverage changes output. You've seen how simplicity restores strength. Now you've seen how questioning transforms identity. This is the pattern of real evolution. The outer work, the inner silence, the honest question that ties them together. Socrates didn't promise comfort. He promised awakening. He showed that truth isn't something you find once. It's something you rediscover every time you ask why. You don't need to quit your job, move to the mountains, or delete every distraction. You just need to stop mistaking activity for growth. The hardest work you will ever do isn't physical or financial. It's the moment you stop defending your own beliefs long enough to see where they came from. So start small. Take one belief. Ask one real question. Stay with the discomfort until the answer shifts. That single shift is evolution. You will never evolve by working harder. You will evolve when you learn to ask better questions. When effort stops being a cage and becomes inquiry. When silence becomes your teacher. When the mind stops running and finally begins to see. You don't need to move faster. You need to wake up deeper. If this made you see the world a little clearer, stay. Think deeper. This is ThinkMate.